Welcome back in this particular episode. We are not yet tired. We are not going to relent. We're going to be resilient in this particular work here. We're going to really exhaust every item, every aspect of this particular text, Fathers of Nations by Paul B. Vitta. And in fact, we're not going to leave any stone unturned. And therefore, in this particular episode here, in that particular order of process, it has been back to back, and this is the third one since we started really looking into this one, into the details, and therefore corruption and betrayal. This is still Liberty Media, rebranded Liberty Media Class. And in case you're bumping across this work by accident, or a good friend of yours did refer you to this particular channel, how about a thumbs up, that is, a subscription, and of course a good share it with friends, especially those ones that you think and you know that this work is going to be of value and is going really to improve, add value to their lives, especially these particular sessions, and those who are sojourning or who are maybe up to the task of this particular literature work. And if in case literature is, you're passionate about literature, or you are this particular person that literature, you're passionately passionate about literature, then therefore this is one channel that you would want to maybe subscribe yourself and to hang around even as we enlighten ourselves in. So without that much further ado, let's dive into it. Vitta also shared that corruption is endemic in Africa. The vice has disastrous effects on the continent's economies. It also affects the cohesion of communities and social contracts, which are vital pillars for building nations. Wars and organized criminal networks distract the attention of some countries. The networks control all the political and economic opportunities. Corruption is pandemic in African countries. Bribery is the order of the day in Banjul, Gambia. Miss Fiona McKenzie is stopped at ARC number 22. The police demand a bribe from her driver, an unemployed graduate. Mr. Tad Longway, in his submission to Dr. Afolabi, says that Africa in its present state has two new arrivals: corruption and impunity. This confirms that corruption is a rampant vice in Africa, almost the oxygen of African countries in this particular case. The oxygen of African countries. In the elections held in Zimbabwe, Comrade Melusi and all other candidates together garner 1% of the total votes cast, while the ruler gets 99% after all the challenges that precede the elections, thereby negatively painting the ruler and his government as unpopular. Additionally, it points to some unorthodox means that must have been used to get 99% of the votes cast. That is definitely rigging. Mr. Tad Longway, apart from clearing bills for their meals, also gives Comrade Melusi a stack of American dollars and thereafter gives him a document titled Path Alpha. This gift, quote unquote, could be construed as a means to wield influence over his decision. Tad Longway offers to buy a drink for Miss Fiona McKenzie, a journalist with the Voice of America, VOA. This is the first time that they are meeting at the Seamount Hotel. The offer is meant to influence what Fiona will report about Path Alpha, which is being propagated by Mr. Tad Longway. Path Alpha is not on the summit's agenda. Mr. Tad Longway and his accomplices, through Dr. Afolabi, want it on the agenda of the summit. That means the means through which the proposal Path Alpha will find itself on the agenda must be fraudulent and full of coercion. Dr. Afolabi thanks Nick Sentinel for having given him the tip of the trick, quote unquote. The trick, quote unquote, right there, that enabled him to put Path Alpha on the summit agenda. The trick in its exploration must be the coercion that smells like corruption. The method used to decide whether to take Path Alpha or Path Omega. Path Omega is uncertain and very unclear. The method attracts so many questions and petitions. It also appears to have predetermined outcomes. This gives credit to the feeling that there must be schemes and machinations to reach these predetermined outcome. That marks the end of that particular part there, that particular session. Not session rather, that particular thematic concern. Then let's adjourn into or expose ourselves into another one, and that is betrayal. Betrayal. To some extent, of course, in the text, Dr. Afolabi betrays the heads of state. He had been asked to give some advice on the way Omega strategy. The heads of state are unaware that he is at the heart of the rival group Path Alpha. He influences the introduction of Path Alpha on the agenda and also determines the outcome of the method committee. The leader of Libya betrays Engineer Tahir. When Engineer Saif Tahir comes back from Paris, France, the leader of Libya was his darling, quote unquote, especially after coming up with what? My slides are hurrying me up. I mean, like they're, especially after coming up with the Feast of Allah and supporting it fully. After some time, the leader does away with this outfit which sets him against Engineer Saif Tahir. The intellectuals, professionals, and freedom fighters have been betrayed by the leadership of the continent. All four men across Africa, Professor Kimani, Comrade Melusi, Pastor Chamaka, and Engineer Tahir, after doing a lot for their mother countries, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, and Libya, respectively, were and are still neglected. They are languishing in poverty and untold suffering. They have been left on their own. The image readers also get of African leaders is that of a coalition of confused and manipulated people. They have suppressed the voices of the civilians, who are mere spectators as the leaders destroy their source of livelihood. The book, therefore, is a bold portrayal of post-colonial African countries. It is a continent where the most land are impoverished because society doesn't value knowledge. Instead, it cherishes ignorance and politicians. African leaders, the so-called fathers of nations, have betrayed the ordinary people. They are in the offices with the mandate of taking care of the populace. But tragically, this is not the case. When Zimbabwe gains independence, the ruler does not remember to appoint Comrade Ngobile Melusi as a minister. Instead, he only focuses on his Shona people, and any dissenting voice is silenced. Newborn Wolomo betrays Professor Kimani, his former colleague at the university. After he marries Asio, Professor Kimani's wife, Asio betrays Professor Kimani. And Asio betrays Professor Kimani, her husband. The predicament the husband gets himself into is not his doing. Professors at the University of Nairobi are paid a pittance in comparison to members of parliament. Secondly, it isn't in the cards for their car to be grounded, which would necessitate their only daughter to travel using public means and get involved in a grisly road accident. Rather, it is the economic status of the good professor that brings about this challenge. Excuse me. Yoruba culture betrays Dr. Afolabi. There could have been a better engagement between the family and Dr. Afolabi before Nimbo was dropped at Dr. Afolabi's place as a second wife. For this brings about divorce between Dr. Afolabi and Pamela, his wife. Pamela betrays Dr. Afolabi. She does not listen to him. Instead, he hurriedly opts out of marriage and goes back to Boston, only to call after a week to tell him that she had filed for a divorce. Very well. Good learners, good students. I hope this has been very, very useful. I would suggest and I would highly recommend that you take some pauses in between the slides so that you can have the better part of it. Because this has been just only reading it, you can do the reading for yourself. But again, you want maybe to have this point to take the other one and try to relook into it again. I would suggest that you pause in between when you're seated at a comfortable, serene place with your book, notebook, and a pen, trying to get sense out of this particular work that I've just left you up here. I just still want to echo this. In case you bumped across this one accidentally, it's your first time, and literature, you're passionate about literature, then definitely this is one channel that you want to maybe subscribe to, hang around, even as try to enlighten ourselves together. And above all, share it also with people out there, or those ones that you know that this work could be of value and will help them. And let's really enjoy this work together. For now, it's an adios, stay put until we meet next time around. Cheers.